Welcome, tennis fans and sports enthusiasts from every corner of the globe, to a breaking news presentation that has sent genuine shockwaves through the entire sporting world. What we are bringing you today is not a story that was predicted. It was not anticipated by analysts, not forecast by algorithms, and not written into any narrative that the tennis establishment had prepared for. What happened on the hard courts of Indian Wells, California today has rewritten the script of the 2026 WTA season in a single seismic afternoon. The headline is clear and it is undeniable. Alexandra Eala defeats Mirra Andreeva at the BNP Paribas Open. The defending champion, eliminated, sent packing by a 20-year-old from the Philippines who walked onto the court at the 5th Grand Slam and delivered a masterclass that has left the global tennis community absolutely speechless. To fully grasp the magnitude of what just transpired on the courts of the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, you have to understand exactly who was standing on the other side of that net. Mirra Andreeva is not simply a highly ranked player arriving at a tournament she won last year. She is the defending champion, and she arrived in California carrying everything that title implies. Cast your mind back to the 2025 edition of this tournament, where Andreeva, still a teenager, dismantled the draw with the ruthless efficiency of a seasoned veteran before producing a spectacular final in which she took apart Aryna Sabalenka, one of the most physically dominant players the sport has ever produced, to claim the title. She came back to Indian Wells this year carrying 1,000 ranking points to defend and the weight of a crown she had fought extraordinarily hard to earn. The Russian tennis establishment, a machinery renowned for producing cold, calculating, technically flawless champions, looked to Andreeva as their golden standard, the immovable force of the WTA Tour, the player positioned to define the sport for the next decade. Her game is built on preternatural timing, the ability to absorb her opponent's power and redirect it with lethal precision, and a capacity to dismantle opponents psychologically long before their physical stamina begins to falter. She was the heavy favorite. She was the expected winner. She was the reigning monarch of the desert. And then there was Alexandra Eala, the pride of the Philippines. The 20-year-old phenomenon who has been carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire nation, an entire region, on her shoulders since her junior days. A graduate of the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, Eala has absorbed the deepest lessons in grit, topspin, and unconditional competitive resilience from one of the sport's greatest ever champions. Coming into Indian Wells, she had already reached a historic career-high ranking of World No. 31, a position she did not stumble into, but forged through a blistering Middle East swing that included a stunning victory over World No. 7 Jasmine Paolini in Dubai. That run earned her a seeded position and a first-round bye at the BNP Paribas Open, a first for any Filipino player in a WTA 1000 event in history. But even accounting for all of that form, the tennis world viewed this matchup against Andreeva as a step too far. The defending champion had defeated Eala in their previous meeting at an exhibition encounter in Macau late last year. The narrative seemed written. Andreeva would absorb the early pressure, neutralize Eala's heavy left-handed topspin, and march comfortably into the next round on her path toward a second consecutive title. Sport does not care about written narratives. Cares about who shows up on the day. Who executes when the pressure is at its most suffocating? Who possesses the sheer, unbreakable will to win when winning demands everything? Today, Alexandra Eala showed up and delivered the performance of her life. In Russia, the sports media is in a state of collective disbelief, dissecting every frame of the match, searching for explanations, questioning how their reigning champion was dismantled so completely. In the Philippines, the reaction is the polar opposite. Social media has been consumed entirely by the triumph of a young woman from Quezon City, who has spent her entire career shattering glass ceilings and redefining what Southeast Asian tennis can look like on the world stage. This was not simply a tennis match. It was a high-stakes physical chess match, a collision of contrasting philosophies, contrasting temperaments, and contrasting styles. On one side, the flat, penetrating precision of the Russian prodigy. On the other, the heavy, looping, Nadalesque topspin of the Filipino trailblazer. And from the very first game, it was clear that one player had arrived with a meticulous, disciplined plan, and the composure to execute it point by point, game by game, for the duration of the match. The tactical blueprint to understand how Eala pulled this off. You have to start with the specific conditions that define Indian Wells as a venue. The BNP Paribas Open is notoriously demanding to navigate. The ball travels through the thin, dry desert air with considerable speed, but the surface itself, a gritty, high-friction hardcourt, grabs the ball and produces a high, often unpredictable bounce. This unique combination rewards players who employ heavy topspin, because the surface accentuates the kick off the bounce and creates genuine difficulties for opponents. Conversely, players whose games are built on flat, penetrating ground strokes can find the thin desert air unforgiving, balls flying long when footwork is even a fraction of a second late. Andreeva's entire game is predicated on timing and redirection. She absorbs pace, flattens her ground strokes, and uses the opponent's power against them. When she won this title in 2025 against Sabalenka, she executed that blueprint to perfection, a counterpunching masterclass that used Sabalenka's own immense power as a weapon against her. Alexandra Eala, however, presents an entirely different puzzle. She is left-handed. Her game is rooted deeply in the philosophy of the Rafa Nadal Academy. She generates massive revolutions per minute on her forehand wing, producing heavy, high-kicking balls that bear no resemblance to the flat pace Andreeva thrives on redirecting. Instead of feeding the Russian the hard, low balls she processes most comfortably, Eala was consistently delivering heavy, spinning deliveries that bounced up well above Andreeva's ideal strike zone, forcing her to generate her own pace from uncomfortable positions she had no rhythm in. From the opening game, Eala implemented her tactical plan with remarkable discipline. She refused to engage in rapid, flat baseline exchanges. Instead, she used her left-handed geometry to relentlessly target Andreeva's backhand, not with speed, but with height and heavy spin. Against a right-handed opponent, a left-hander's cross-court forehand creates angles that are genuinely difficult to handle at shoulder height. Against a player of Andreeva's caliber, executing that tactic with the required consistency demands extraordinary mental focus. Eala delivered it throughout. The effect was clear and cumulative. Andreeva found herself pinned deep behind the baseline, unable to step inside the court and dictate play the way her game demands. The Russian's ability to inject pace down the line, one of her most potent weapons, was systematically neutralized. Eala's serve added another layer to the tactical picture. Her left-handed slice serve out wide on the ad court repeatedly pulled Andreeva completely off the doubles alley, opening the entire court for her devastating forehand on the very next ball. The statistics told the story with precision, an exceptionally high first serve percentage that kept her out of danger on her own service games, and a breakpoint conversion rate that was nothing short of clinical. The moment Andreeva showed even the smallest crack in her defensive armor, Eala was on it. The psychological dimension but tactical superiority alone does not produce upsets of this magnitude. The psychological landscape of this match was just as important as the tactical one. Consider the weight that Andreeva carried onto that court. 1,000 ranking points disappearing if she failed to defend her title. Every unforced error magnified by the pressure of defending champion status. Every service break carrying the emotional weight of a potential collapse. That is an immense psychological burden to manage, and it is one that even the most experienced players in the sport have crumbled under. Eala, by contrast, was playing with genuine freedom. Already seeded, already at a career-high ranking, already having secured a first-round bye. She walked onto that court with nothing to lose and everything to gain. That freedom translated directly into fearless shot-making. In the match's most critical moments, those tense 30-all and deuce points where momentum hangs in perfect balance, it was Eala who consistently played the braver tennis. When Andreeva attempted to draw her into a web of slices and off-pace deliveries, testing her patience and discipline, Eala refused to be rattled. She constructed points methodically, waiting with composure for the short ball and then attacking with precision rather than reckless power. This is not the tennis of a promising junior finding her feet on the big stage. This is the tennis of a player who has genuinely evolved, who has developed the patience, the tactical intelligence, and the psychological fortitude to beat the world's best on the world's biggest stages. She did not just out-hit the world number 8 today. She out-thought her. The fallout and the meaning the reaction in Russia has been predictably stunned. Sports analysts in Moscow are searching for explanations. Pressure, physical condition, a bad day. But to attribute this defeat to anything other than the quality of Eala's performance would be a profound disservice to the masterclass she delivered. For Andreeva's camp, this early exit forces a genuine recalibration. The WTA Tour has evolved with extraordinary speed in the past 12 months, and players like Eala have done meticulous homework on every vulnerability in the defending champion's game. This result will serve as a stark and valuable lesson that the gap between the top 10 and the rest of the field is closing at a pace the establishment is only now beginning to fully appreciate. The impact of this victory for the Philippines and for the broader Asian tennis community cannot be overstated. For a Filipina to step onto the main court at the 5th Grand Slam and eliminate the defending champion is a watershed moment for the sport in the region. It validates years of sacrifice, the decision to leave home young, the grinding work at the Rafa Nadal Academy, the lonely nights in foreign countries pursuing something that countless people said was beyond reach. It sends an unmistakable message to every young athlete across Southeast Asia that the pinnacle of this sport is not an exclusive club reserved for Europeans and North Americans. The door is open, and Alexandra Eala just walked through it. Looking forward, the draw has opened dramatically with Andreeva's elimination. The psychological landscape of Eala's section of the bracket has shifted in her favor, and she now carries the momentum of one of the most significant upsets the tournament has seen in years. The question is no longer whether she belongs at this level. That question was answered definitively this afternoon. The question now is how deep into the second week she can go, and whether she can manage the emotional aftermath of a victory of this scale. The match after the upset is notoriously the most dangerous for young players, who often experience an involuntary emotional letdown following a career-defining win. But if the composure Eala displayed against a defending champion under the full pressure of a WTA 1000 main draw is any indication, she has the mental infrastructure to refocus, reset, and prepare for whatever comes next. This match will be studied. It will be rewatched by coaches and aspiring players across the world. It was a technically flawless execution of left-handed topspin strategy against a flat-hitting counterpuncher. It was a triumph of patience and tactical intelligence over the crushing weight of expectation. It was, in every meaningful sense, a historic upset. As the desert dust settles over the Indian Wells tennis garden, the full magnitude of what we witnessed today is only beginning to sink in. Alexandra Eala's stunning, methodical, and fearless victory over the defending champion is not simply a result to file away in the 2026 WTA season records. It is a defining moment, for her career, for her country, and for the future of this sport. She is no longer a rising star. She is no longer a promising prospect. She is a giant slayer. A legitimate, proven force capable of taking down the very best in the world on the sport's grandest stages.